Hello, my last gamer. Welcome to the video. I just wanted to let you know I do have a Discord and a Twitter if you ever want to interact with me or say hi or have a conversation. And if you ever want to catch these videos live, head over to my Twitch and my Kick and come hang out. I sometimes don't talk. That's unfortunately one of my mini quirks. Is my inability to formulate thoughts as my brain focuses in on what I'm doing, and then I just forget to speak. So I'm always up to hang out and chat with anyone that stops by. So hope you enjoyed the video.
Okay, that's crazy.
That's so crazy.
Um,
It's so Raven.
so I accepted your thing, so
All right, I just won't hit the shared chat.
you won't? Oh, you will. Okay. I was about to say,
I have invited you for absolutely no reason.
yeah, I was like, okay. But I chose to sleep, otherwise my mental HP will die. Oh my god.
Hello,
This is,
the other person.
yeah, this is, gamer. This was our original plan, was to do a reaction today, but his weather decided to not be nice. So here we are.
Literally, as right as about we start, I lost power,
Yeah, he's not doing too hot.
and then the storm literally passed 30 minutes later. It is like actually sunny outside.
Honestly, I feel that, yeah. Same happened to me when I was supposed to play with Chaos. When was that? Oh yeah, yeah.
The curse.
The curse of Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm just making sure you're all
Okay.
set up.
What is the video that we're watching? What's the name of it?
The Mystery Flesh Pit National Park.
Can I just let me explain this a little bit. First off, this is Toadie's fault, okay?
Yep.
Second off, second off, I told Gamer I didn't want to know anything that we were reacting to, and I when we tested this earlier and I saw the title, I went, "Oh my god, I really hope it's not what I think it is."
It's just a flesh
So,
pit. Don't worry about it.
yeah, because that sounds so normal. But so I have no idea what if he has other videos planned other than this one, but I have no idea what they are. I literally drove to the work site and told them to finish it faster. Catching strays.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Night Shin, go get some sleep. You're not catching strays. You said it yourself that you influence my streaming, okay? Don't catching strays is not allowed here.
And I know something about this video. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I feel Chaos is going to very much enjoy this video.
Oh, why?
Don't worry about it. You'll see.
Okay.
Since
I'm
you were the more fresh experience, if we need to pause, just tell me. If you need to digest what the information is being spit at you.
okay. Will do. I'll tell you when.
Are you ready for Freddy?
Yes, I'm ready. That's how I feel right now, Reed.
Hey everyone, so as you probably know at this point, I for one love horror. And one of the things that's so important for me in a horror setting is that of the setting itself. Most often, horror like Friday the 13th or the Halloween series takes a setting we're all familiar with, and that's used as the basis for whatever the scare is. And then several
Oh,
of my
Lord.
favorite horrors, like the 1982 movie The Thing, take a setting that we we can sort of relate to, like people at a research base, and then use that for whatever cosmic horror comes out of it. But I think
It's always a
especially
research base for those
whenever
things.
a horror series
Mhm.
creates an entirely unique
Although I guess you
world
can't have
that is so visceral and outside of our realm of understanding.
if you're doing
that
it based
just
on
the
aliens,
thought
you
of
really
it
can't
in
have
itself
it
is
any
enough
other
to
way.
creep us out. And today I want
There's
to bring
like only one or
of
two
those horrors
things to do.
you, Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. Now, this was originally started by an artist known as Trevor Roberts, who goes by Strange Vehicles on Reddit. And specifically, it began within the subreddit r/world building. It began as a sort of creative exercise of seeing how intricate or heavily put together of a world you could make. However, as you could see, Trevor went way beyond the average or what was required of him, and instead
Ew.
created this super expansive universe. That being of a now defunct national park. that
Just let me
was
know how
made
it's
out
if
of
it's too
a
quiet or
living
not.
cave that is potentially a giant hundreds and hundreds mile long creature underneath the earth itself. Not only that, but Trevor was
Ooh.
able to tell this story through a series of brochures and park guides that look like they would be standard of any national park. So there's not only creativity with the world itself, but also the manner in which information is given to us. So today I want to go through some of the details and break down this entire ARG that Trevor has crafted. However, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get to every single minute detail, as cool as they all are. So I'm going to
Wait, so
leave
this
a link
isn't
to
real?
the original website where all of this information is cataloged for you to find, as well as the
Oof.
artist.
Did you think this is real?
Subreddit, because
Yeah, I thought it
I'm
was
telling
like,
you,
know,
this is
like
some
someone
wild
stumbles
stuff, and you
upon like a
really need to
weird
check it
pit
out.
and then
you know
like
what else you should check
The-
out?
the
he
real-
further
Big
explains
sponsor
that
allows
it's
you to
not a
save
flesh
money
pit,
while
it's
shopping
just
for free.
a phenomenon.
Because if you're like me,
Phenomenon.
nowadays online shopping is pretty much all that you do. Like if there's a specific item that I want, I just find it online for the best deal and have it sent to my house.
Oh, hey,
and
look, an
now
ad.
those best deals can get even
Skip
better
it.
with Honey. Honey is the online
Hey,
tool
look, a
that
Honey
scours the internet for the best promo codes
Didn't Honey go
available
through,
and
like,
helps you
a-
save money on
a
your
thing?
order. Being the number
Yes.
one shopping tool in America, it is seamless and easy to use. You can get Honey on your computer checkout. Your price because it's off. Never have you. Honey does its best to find codes before there's no go, hey, you want to get $7 off that? Be honey .com/Wendigoon to immediately put it on your computer and just start saving
Wendigoon?
cash. Once again, that is joinhoney.com/Wendigoon,
Yep, Wendigoon.
and I ask that you please use my link because it lets them know that I sent you and it helps me.
I
and it
guess I
helps the
just
channel,
never-
and I really appreciate it. So thank you all
Oh,
so much for
that's
watching.
funny.
Thank you so much to Honey for sponsoring the video. It means the most. I hope that you check it out. I hope you
Wendigoon.
use the link in the description. I hope you all have a great day, and we are back to the video, which is again 2 feet this way. So just cut back. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and break down the horror of the Flesh Pit. But first of all, and as always,
Needs
thank
to be
you for
louder?
watching.
Okay, okay.
So the story of Mystery Flesh Pit National Park is told very
Burn the flesh hole.
non-chronologically. Basically, Trevor will release these incremental posters and pictures that allow us to paint a picture of the world together. So lucky for you all, I already did all
Oh.
that and believe I can track down what the first references to the park, or at least, you know, on a timeline, what the first references to the park can be. We'll break down more of the actual details of what
If this
the pit
pops up,
is
just
like,
ignore
as
it.
well as the quite literal anatomy of it later. But right now, we're just
Don't worry
getting
about
an
it.
introduction to how this thing came to be. In our first letter from James Jackson, also known as
I'm just
Jim
making sure
Jackson, which we'll
something's
see
working.
more of later, he writes
'Cause
in
I'm
a letter
scared.
to Mr. Colton Fleming explaining the finding of this cave itself.
I see
The letter
chat
reads,
really does not like the
Dear
flesh
Colton,
pit.
now you know more than most how I may
No,
be prone
that's
to
just Reed.
hyperbole on
Don't.
occasion.
Reed wants to
But
burn
those
everything.
Whitmer boys that called on Monday are on to something amazing. I mean, really, truly amazing. This isn't any mineral deposit, Colton.
I'm
At
just
least
switching
not
my
like
position
anything
around
I've seen. I went ahead and sent some samples for you and Chris to start
to
looking
get
at.
cozy.
I didn't think you all would believe me if I didn't. This thing that those old boys found is some kind of organic deposit that must go down at least 5
The
or
camera might not like
600
me this
feet
way.
by my reckoning.
That's okay.
Not a fungus either. This thing breathes and makes sounds
That's the
same
fire
as
spray.
any other creature, and it bleeds. God, how it bleeds. Colton, it's a mess out here.
Oh.
John and some of the others think it might be something from outer space. Most of the hombres we brought out to start the excavation call it Diablo Debajo, and are real weary of going too close to what we figure must be the mouth of this thing. Right now, I don't think I care what it is or where it came from. I'm an oil man, and I think we're onto something real big out here. Once you and
I'm an
Chris
oil
start
man.
looking at these samples, go ahead and give Lenny a call to send out his crew, and make sure they bring at least 4 excavators. Pay them whatever they ask
4?
and make it fast. Also, there's
Yeah,
a card in
teamwork.
here for a fella in Carlsbad with some pretty heavy duty spelunking gear. Pay him whatever he wants to get here by Friday or Saturday. I'll call Beverly to have her put out other jobs on hold for the next 3 weeks, but you should remind her anyway. We need to move real fast on this. Dale Whitmer already left this morning to find someone in Gumption to come take some photos. It'll be a circus once that happens.
It has
God
to
help
use
us if the
flamethrower.
feds come
I'm
out
not
and
a
lock it down.
Pokemon.
There's something about this
That's
thing
not how
that's
that
important,
works.
and I don't want to see something this special get in the hands of some game warden. Regards, James Jackson of Jackson Surveying Incorporated. So as you can see there, it seems that just a normal mining operation or oil drilling operation came across this giant creature hidden underground. Now Jackson was right as to say that this thing underground, whatever they walked into, was actually the mouth of it. Because as we're going to see in a little bit, this thing has entire nervous systems, muscles, and stomach components. And it seems that this agape opening is in fact the mouth of this creature. Now, before
Why
we
would you
get
think I'm a
into a
Pokemon?
lot of the details, or my favorite part, the tourism surrounding the flesh pit, I need to go ahead and read the second letter from Jackson as to make sense of this. Dear Colton, things are really starting to take off down here. At around 3 or so last night, we broke a new depth record of 1,800 feet vertical descent from the maw. It's a damn shame you and the other folks are so spooked by this pit. To be down there in it really is something else. Now don't misunderstand. I'm not saying it's easy. God almighty, is it tough getting around down in its gullet
Is he-
and such. A man's gotta have an iron constitution
He's
or
not
a mighty
Texan,
thick
right?
skull, and lucky
He's
me,
just
the good
mimicking
Lord
the
has seen
accent?
fit to bless me with both.
I can't remember. I
Some
think
of the boys
Wendigoon is
here
southern.
have rigged up scuba
I think he
gear,
lives in
Oh,
and we've
Texas,
been able to
or is it-
squeeze
I can't
around
remember
down
which
there
state
with
lives
some
in.
effort.
I just didn't know
Giant
if he was
muscles,
reading it
giant bones, innards so
purposefully
big
in
you
that
could drive
over
a trailer truck through.
exaggerated accent,
Strange
or
critters scuttling around in the dark down there too. Big bugs and germs and worms and other queer things that you wouldn't believe. Some kind of crab thing the size of coyote crept out a week and a half ago, and we caught it crawling around the feed trailer. I got a good look at it
Ooh.
before one of Dale's boys shot at it, and it skittered away. We had the funeral for the third roustabout to pass away this month on Tuesday. The papers are already talking gossip more than I like, and I'm hopeful that Bill and the other attorneys can keep the vultures and the feds at bay. People don't understand until they've seen it and been down inside it, Colton. We're pioneers and explorers here. This is good work. This is God's work. Nobody knows what this mystery pit is or what it eats, or how long it's been here. We need some guys with real smarts, not oilmen. Doctors, scientists, and good decent folk who would have nothing to do with us. I'm mighty glad that you've taken responsibility for holding down the fort back home while I'm out here playing the cowboy. You're a good man, Colton, the kind of quality individual they don't make anymore. Maybe I'm hoping I can find some of that goodness myself someday, maybe down in the belly of this beast. Give Samantha and the baby my regards. Jim Jackson. P.S. There's a company out of Fort Worth that I've called up to help with the exploration. I attached their card to this letter. Give their geologist a call and let them know the details. I'm told they're very good at what they do. And attached we see a business card for the Anodyne Deep Earth Mining Company. Now, Anodyne's going to come up a lot because they're pretty much responsible for everything that happens after this point. So, the pit was discovered in 1973. And as Jackson talked about in the letters, very quickly the local populace as well as the authorities began to grow interest in it because
Duh.
And one of the most interesting things about this story is the immediate rush of consumerism that happens surrounding the pit. See, initially, it becomes a competition of what certain groups are going to do with it, but through what you can kind of pick up on as some government influence on Anodyne's behalf, they managed to get the park sanctified as a national park. What that means is that the park itself is treated in the same way the Smokies or Yellowstone would be treated, as in it cannot be destroyed by any newcomers coming in. However, it can be hosted by different companies like restaurants or lounges, and more importantly, Anodyne maintains access to the resources. So the main questions going in at this point is how big is the pit and what exactly did they do to it? And measurements of tissue as far down as they could see initially are about 30 kilometers, which again probably isn't even close to how deep it actually is. And charts like this one that have the original surveyor's mark show that they mapped it out down to about 4,000 feet. So in other words, it's pretty big. And if you'll pay attention to that part in the second letter, people are not the only creatures alive inside of the living cave itself. As a matter of fact, as you can see on the major parasitic fauna chart, there are several massive creatures that people have to worry about. Like for example, the abyssal sopapod. That's probably not how it's pronounced, but whatever.
Sopapod.
When I initially saw this, I was like, oh, well, what is that? Like a really big beetle like that? And then I was reading in another entry about how they eat people and can grow up to 20 feet long. So in other words, a small school bus that eats people.
Oh my gosh.
Which would mean all these other creatures you can see there are probably
I don't like the
much
hands
bigger
on
than
it.
people are. Also beneath
Like it has
several
human
of these
hands.
posts is a sort of explanation
Isn't it
that
great?
goes into more detail around whatever's being discussed.
It literally has human
So
hands.
underneath
Like,
the
what,
bug
how?
chart,
Why?
we can see in the description that it reads, this chart and many others like it were produced by Park Service as an educational tool for use in classrooms, museums, and universities. Popular among natural history enthusiasts, the illustrations
I'm not gonna lie,
featured
my
on
other
these
thought was
posters
that it
were the
was the
result
Alaskan
of an
bullworm,
intensive
but
expeditions and surveys into the
now
mystery flesh
we'll
pit.
use
While visitors are
Dragon
almost
Rage.
certain to encounter common fauna, such as the myriad of macrobacteria subspecies,
Read.
many organisms such as the Venice shamble and the abyssal sopapod, probably pronouncing that wrong again, tend to evade trails and high traffic areas, making them difficult to spot. As a practical tool, these illustrations were useful in training wildlife management rangers in proper firearm techniques for safely dispatching a dangerous organism. For this reason, the designers of this and other charts attempted to represent the scale of the organisms in relation to each other as accurately as possible. So if you're going into the pit, you better be strapped. And also, like, look at all the detail in
Fair
these
enough,
different
that's fair.
designs.
That's
Like,
a
for
fair
example, the lesser
assumption.
sopapod, which looks like a
Or
giant
get
tendril
flaps.
shrimp thing.
Yeah.
And then the gastric bristleworm, which is huge and terrifying. And there's
That
some
reminds
more
me
specific
of-
entries about some of the
Fun fact, if you
lesser-known
don't
or
want to hear this
lesser-seen
because it's a
ones.
real
Like,
thing
for
in the
example,
medical, it's called a whipworm, and the bristleworm looks like it has those. The best way, it's on the whipworm, it's their head that embeds into your intestines and makes you bleed a lot. That's what I would think the bristleworm would do. Probably not, but it just reminds me of whipworm. So, fun fact, another medical horror story if you want to know about whipworm.
Yeah, I hate parasites. They suck.
Yeah, that's in the United States too, so watch out. That's why you don't go outside barefoot, actually.
What? I'm not supposed to walk around barefoot through all these leaves and stuff?
Yeah, you can get hookworm, you can ticks, you get a lot. I will say when I went to school and did parasitology, it made me either burnt my food, like my meats and whatnot, or I would just not eat meat for a while, and I would not go swimming, and I would not go outside without at least Crocs on. I lived in fear for about 2 months while I was in that class. Fun fact. So, if you're going in the medical field and you need to take that class, please be prepared.
That sounds like that sucks.
It was cool. I loved it, but I was also like, oh, I can't do anything normal for at least 2 months now. I don't normally go outside. Yeah, that's how I am too now. That's all I
Outside,
wanted to say.
outside sucks. That's how I only like walk near the outside. I don't actually go into the outside.
That's fair enough. Fair point. I was forced to. Yes, we know, Reed. You were forced to, sadly.
With the evolution of the amorphous Shane pamphlet, which is presented as a sort of brochure for people taking a hike through the trail, you can see the life cycle of something that is believed to be an ancient descendant from a weasel that over time crawled into the cave and slowly
Oh.
lost so many traits of itself, it eventually just became a blob of organs that crawls inside of crevices in the flesh walls of the cave itself and just
Ew.
like absorbs the nutrients, which is and as you'll remember me mentioning earlier,
Don't you want
the
it as a
flesh pit
pet?
itself became a national
No.
park, hiking and all, which means, as pictured on maps like this that show the orifice or mouth of the pit, as well as an interior trail map, people would go on these very long excursions walking through the innards of this creature. And people could visit such amazing sights such as the northern bronchial forest, which is the sort of lungs of this creature, the amniotic thermal springs, which is something we are going to talk about in a minute, the gastric sea,
Ew.
which is digestive enzymes, or the fondue village, which is bone marrow so large you can walk inside of it, which is a very comforting thought. And some of the dangers that hikers through the park, and I'm going to continue using park, but you know, by park I mean giant flesh underground monster thing. We can see in the wildlife safety pamphlet some of the things people hiking would
WPET,
have to
that's
worry
crazy.
about. Like with the introduction, it says your visit to the mystery flesh pit can be a most pleasurable and rewarding experience, or it can be a time of vexation, distress, or even tragedy. Much depends on how you and your family observe these simple guidelines and avoid designated hazards. Take a minute to read these simple but important safety rules, then go on to a pleasant park experience. I also want to mention all of these pamphlets, as well as everything that I'm going to mention that's been industrialized within the park, has been done by the Anodyne Corporation. Visitors
Now,
Oh.
would you go to this park, this wonderful park?
And die. That's base. First off, this would never happen because I don't think they legally could have a park where you can almost easily die as soon as you step into it.
Well, most national
Like,
parks have like extremely lethal wildlife if you run into it. That's why you have to take bear mace and stuff.
well, I don't like it. This is different. Like, we know, hey man, maybe don't pet that wolf that looks like it has rabies, or don't feed the raccoons. Like this would cause they would have so many lawsuits, and I could already see it.
No, they could literally go to the Mount Everest route of, oh, if you go up there and die, it's your fault. You're doing this on your own.
That's Mount Everest.
They could classify it as like it's something from like Mount Everest, where it's like, oh yeah, there's a really high chance you might die doing this.
There's almost 100% chance you die.
Well, let's see.
and wildlife within the mystery flesh pit often frequent the same areas within the park. It
I
is
tried to pet
likely
a bear.
that park
Oh my
wildlife
God,
and
Reed.
visitors will encounter
Please don't.
one another, but by remaining calm and following the basic advice of experienced veteriobiologists, you increase the odds of a positive outcome for both yourself and the wildlife. All visitors who partake on self-guided excursions beyond reinforced and enclosed trails within the mystery flesh pit
People go
are
cave
required
diving.
to
That
attend
shit
an
is terrifying.
orientation
That
at
is
the lower visitor center. During this
essentially the
orientation,
same
a
thing,
park
kind
ranger will
of.
inform you about
my
areas
God.
that are
Reed.
closed to visitors due to high fauna activity or recent wildlife-human encounters. It is
My dad will
important to
never
be
go
aware when
mountain
camping and hiking
cave diving
within
with
the
me,
mystery
so
flesh pit to avoid wildlife foraging areas, chimal deposits, gastric bladders, surface wildlife carcass mounds, etc. So not only do you have to worry about the giant bug things that are essentially this creature's immune system, but you have to worry about the creature itself digesting you. We'll talk about that in a minute, but a final thought on encountering these things. It says at the end of the pamphlet, if you see flora or fauna within the park and it does not appear to notice you, back out of sight and change your course. Move out of the area or quietly observe at a safe distance without approaching or otherwise disturbing it.
Why?
Disturbance is evident whenever wildlife change their behavior because of you. If it stops eating and looks up, raises its antennas, or secretes scent enzymes, or begins making territorial clicks while trying to locate you, you are too close. While many life forms within the pit seem to be tolerant of human presence at a distance further than 200 yards, each creature is different. Use telephoto lenses and endoscopes where possible. Allow migrating bacterial colonies to pass by your camp undisturbed. If you have made sure that the wildlife is aware of your presence so it is not surprised and have kept all your gear under your direct control, allow any organism you encounter to travel unhindered. You may just be afforded the opportunity to safely observe these amazing creatures in their natural environment. Yeah, these giant 20-foot tall shrimp things that eat people, just don't panic and just let them walk by your camp. Which I guess, like, their resistance to gunshots as mentioned earlier.
Sorry, what happened? I got zoned in there.
I figured. I also didn't know if it picked up or not. I was just... What is the Nutty Putty incident?
Oh.
Oh?
If there's
I'm assuming
video,
it's...
if there's a video on that, I need to find that. If you don't know anything
Lord.
about it.
Oh, God. Oh, what is happening? Oh, there we go. I assume it's something along the lines of, like, someone getting stuck in cave diving and dying. But...
The best way I could describe without, like, explaining too much, is basically Mystery Flesh Pit if it was in real life.
Ew, okay. I don't like that.
Something with the cave happened and, incident occurred.
Oh, okay. Also, like, why would you choose, to camp there? Like...
It's the reason why you choose to camp in a national park. You want to see some
that's...
wildlife.
Again, that is so different to me right now. You're talking about... There was a 20-foot fucking animal that eats you, and wild parks, they don't bother you.
That's why you have to be strapped, remember? You have to have the gun to, like, protect you from the 20-foot strip thing.
Oh my god. Can you imagine being a guide through this? I would rather die. I subscribe to beat that.
You
I see that.
probably get paid a whole lot to be a guide down here.
I would need... It would be a 5-year contract. And, like, once a month, I go and do a tour. Because after that tour, I would need time to, like, recalibrate myself. I don't know why my VTuber is freaking out right now.
You know, I just thought
It's
about it. You use VTube Studio, right?
Yes, I do.
I think there's literally a collab DLC for VTube Studio where we can both appear
I
on
think you
screen.
have to buy it.
Yeah. I think you have to buy it too. Maybe it's just one person has to buy it. I don't remember.
So I did try to do it with a friend, and both have to buy it, I think. I think it freaks out every time I put my hand in front of the camera, which is not good.
Because it's like, where are they? Where are they? Ah!
Yeah, even though I'm, like, right behind it. Okay, you're all set to start it. Thank you, Reed. I drank the caffeine, I hope you know.
Is your ads over?
No, we have 5 minutes till they start.
Oh, okay. Do you want to pause when your ads pop up?
Sure, yeah. Oh my god. Now he's
But-
making me drink water.
I guess that's all you can do. Also, not only mentioned here, but in other places, it seems all the creatures within the pit itself is blind, which makes sense because the, before we opened up the hole into the mouth of this thing, it was entirely underground, and everywhere throughout the pit is just pitch black. So none of these creatures use eyesight, it's all sound and pheromone tracing. So remember how just a second ago I said that the pit or park itself can eat you? They know that can happen because it's happened. On one of the deeper trails through the park itself, you can come across something known as the circus clown chimus. The description of it reads as though it may look like a colorful ice cream birthday cake covered in a glazed frosting, this calcified formation is anything but festive. In 1976, a group of performers accidentally fell into the upper maw of the entry orifice. While the soft flesh of the pit throat somewhat cushioned the performer's fall, the unexpected dilation of an epiglottal fold allowed them to slide down into a then unreinforced area of the pit. Rescue personnel were able to locate the performers inside a digestive sac a few hours later. But by that time, all 50 stunts people had already begun being digested by the pit. Rescue personnel cut them out, correctly guessing that many were still alive. An experimental antacid spray was discharged on top of the gooey, shrieking mound, but it was too late. Instead of reducing the acidic effects of the partially digested bodies of the performers, the experimental compound flash calcified into the multicolored formation that you see in front of you. Though hauntingly beautiful, the circus clown chimus is a somber reminder of why it is always important to observe all safety instructions and to always stay on the marked trails while visiting the interior of the mystery flesh pit. So, a group of clowns were performing above the flesh pit itself because people are going to be stupid.
You came into it. We're reacting to
fell into the pit,
mysterious
couldn't be located for hours,
flesh pit.
and when they did locate them, they
National
were
Park.
trapped
It's like
inside
National
of a
Park.
digestive
Don't forget that part.
enzyme sac, like a giant lysosome. And then when they cut them out, they were all melted together and screaming and shrieking, and then froze like that. And they just left it there. And then they had the audacity to call it hauntingly beautiful, which no, it's not, it's just haunting. But despite all of this, people still visit the park.
Oh my.
And while reading this, at the first moment, I'm like, that's dumb, they wouldn't. And then I thought for 3 seconds, and I'm like, yeah, they probably would. So once Anodyne had the initial park opened up, or at least the central part of it, that's when the advertising began. Such as this poster for the park itself, which says, discover verdant forest, majestic scenery, and cosmic terror. Enjoy legendary trout fishing, geotonic carnal moans, broken philosophy, backcountry hiking, and camping. I love the broken philosophy because, yeah, where's your God now? A lot of the supplemental material you can read on your own is about how it was hard for businesses to at first sell the idea of the flesh pit because, you know, people were reasonably afraid. So one of the things they did was they came up with this mascot called Caver Coop, who would do these animated sort of Looney Tunes style films talking about going through the cave and why it's really not something to be afraid of, in a sort of propaganda technique. And they would have several events, and some catered towards children, like Caver Coop's Spooky Halloween Carnival, where among the activities for children to perform is haunted hayrides, campfire stories, safe trick-or-treating, and blood. Because if there's one thing this giant cave has a lot of,
Are we sure about that? Oh, the ads are starting.
Since the ads are starting, I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll talk to chat. How are we doing? There you go, Reed, by the way. I figured out how to make you a VIP. I'll do that to Shin, too. Oh, maybe not. Okay, my phone's freaking out. It doesn't like it. But yeah, we're just reacting to a little video. Cosmic Terror. Just to... It's something that someone made up, basically. Don't worry, I'll get rid of Shin's mod privileges. He would... I think he would use that for bad. There we go. There you go. Okay. The ads don't take that long. Thankfully. What is happening? You know, mobile. There we go. I think you can't be mod and VIP at the same time, anyways. Yeah. No, he doesn't have mod privileges. The way I do it so that your guys' name pop up is that I make you a mod and then I go to the roles manager and then change it. It's just easier that way, that's all. 'Tis is all I'm doing is that. I'm just turned around. You can't be both, so I just broke something. Okay. Yeah, so don't worry, he does have the ability to be a menace right now. I mean, he's asleep anyways, but I'm just saying. Oh, jeez. You spoke to him. I'm trying to grab things, but they're... My bookshelf is a mess, and I really need to clean it up, honestly. Who is asleep? Shin is. Hold on. I really dropped something. It's fine. Fuck it. Fuck it, we ball. The Shin guy.
Fuck it, you doing it live?
Doing what live?
That was a meme. That's like an old meme. There was a newscaster that said, literally on live air, "Fuck it, do it. We're doing it live."
It's blood.
It's interesting with
I hit the button.
That's fine. The ads are done.
these, a lot of the brutality that occurs behind the scenes, just for all of the happy sort of national park vibes that are put on the display.
Yes,
like for example, in one letter called Experiences of a Flesh Pit Mine Worker, a mine worker writes to a child telling them what it's like to work for Anodyne in the flesh pit, where essentially a full crew of people work outside of this giant mining rig that works as a boring machine cutting through the cave. And by cutting through, I don't mean in the way that like other things dig through rock. I mean quite literally it's hacking and slashing and there's blood everywhere and it's insane. In describing to the boy how the rig works, he says ideally the rig cuts as it goes, leaving a burnt cauterized path through the meat while also crushing and processing any minerals it runs through. In the real world, the pit isn't uniform, and you end up running into all kinds of obstacles requiring interventional solutions, or the brass up top decide that they don't want you just cutting through certain parts of the anatomy. So you suit up and get out ahead of the rig to poke and prod and pry at a walking pace. 8 hours a day for weeks at a time. Rigs have a big hydraulic arms that reach forward and push, lift, and splay open organs or muscle bundles before us roustabouts would go in and suck up or hose out any blood, cut tendons, cauterized tissue, rinse, and repeat. So while you're thinking that whatever's going on may harm this creature, this thing is so big, it's the equivalent of having like a zit, basically, everything that these people are doing. And as you can see from diagrams like this with the park trail engineer, some of the places inside of the pit are so tight or so inhospitable because you're in a giant immune system basically, that you have to wear these full body suits and put these stents up everywhere that you go so that the muscles don't collapse in and crush you to death. And vehicles like the Park Ranger utility vehicle shows you what you need in order to traverse through this myriad of guts. Also, like a lot of these smaller touches that he puts into the world building, like for example, this necklace that was taken off of a mine worker that says, "A flesh pick worker's prayer. Each day I descend into the deep, cutting meat to earn my keep. Pray to my Father in heaven above that I return to those I love. If somehow death and I should meet, as even the flesh pit needs to eat, I want my loved ones to be sure that in Jesus' arms I am secure." And it's an interesting way to combine these West Texas vibes, of which the pit itself takes place in, with this horrific cosmic Lovecraftian horror that the authors built. And it is dangerous. You can see in several of the different designs that are posted on here, trail engineers, surveyors, and commercial mine technicians, all these need these massive spacesuits. And there's even special weapons shown, like the Anatomical Environment Multi-Tool, or AEM, which
needs
was
to be a
made
game,
to
honestly.
shoot spikes into walls in order to hoist the walls of the cave so you can walk through it. But
Funnily enough, there actually is a game.
What? Actually?
Yeah, about going through the flesh pit.
Oh, that's crazy.
they later
It seems
realized
like a good concept for a game, that's all.
Yeah, there needs to be more games about this game, or about this park.
Yeah, there does. I feel like you could do a lot with it, honestly.
was really, really good at taking out these giant lobster things that attack the workers. So you may be asking, all these workers, all these miners, like, understandably it's a park, but what are they looking for? And the answer is all sorts of stuff. Like using chemicals and enzymes found within the cave, Anodyne became this multi-conglomerate corporation that made things from laundry cleaner over to powerful computers that use the nerve fibers of the cave walls as a means of processing information, and things like Coke Heartthrob, which is a special flavor of Coke that has some very special abilities. As the description reads on that, it says Coke Heartthrob was first introduced on Valentine's Day in 1985 as a limited promotion, but sold so well over the summer that Coca-Cola added it to their primary beverage roster in 1986. The defining ingredient in Coke Heartthrob was, of course, amniotic ballast, harvested from special glands deep within the mystery flesh pit. The potent aphrodisiacal properties of amniotic ballast were diminished by heavily diluting the chemical before adding it to the beverage, but Coke Heartthrob still developed a notorious reputation for its unusual intoxicating effects. So remember earlier how I said there's the amniotic pools that we're going to mention later? This is the part where I mention them. So hidden deep within the cave, they found something that they believe is a part of the creature's endocrine system, known as the amniotic thermal springs. And it turns out these things have insane healing properties. We see images of how this is used as a treatment for Alzheimer's or better aging in the elderly, as well as being used for cancer treatment and all sorts of different illnesses. There are several spas in and around the pit that use this amniotic ballast as a source of physical healing. On the Mystery Below Journey pamphlet, among all the different lounging and dining options we see, like the Marriott Hotel that they have, or the Hard Rock Cafe located just outside of the pit, and even things like an IMAX theater, we can see the advertisement for the amniotic thermal springs. It says on there, located on the ground floor of the visitor center, by the vending machines are the amniotic baths. So this is above surface before you go into the pit. Amniotic secretions are pumped from glands deep within the pit for visitors who are unable to descend into the pit. These springs are known to have a range of positive effects on human psychology, physiology, and well-being, and are enjoyed both medicinally and recreationally. Note, as the visitor center is a family-friendly facility, the surface spring baths are diluted to a 1:20 potency ratio with filtered water. For higher concentrations within adult-only baths, park guests are encouraged to visit the pleasure domes located east of the lower visitor center complex within the mystery
that is
flesh pit.
crazy.
Okay, so
basically,
these amniotic things are used as
fun fact, if you don't know, endocrine is your hormones. They're basically taking hormones from this pit, from this this worm, we'll call it, into a hot spring, basically.
And then jumping into it.
Oh my god. Okay.
See,
cool.
Your medical knowledge is helping out, because I don't know anything about, like, internal, like, biology at all.
Yeah, I also don't know if people, like, I do it all the time where I say something that's I learned in college and I'd never realize that it's not normal people won't know what I'm talking about. So then I'm like, oh shit, sorry. Let me explain that a little more so you're not confused. So I didn't know, like I didn't know if the endocrine system was really well known, but it's hormones or pheromones, all
Nah,
those good things.
I never learned anything about like biology that much, nor do I remember it. So yeah, any insight is helpful.
Yeah. So basically they're giving you also that's what's in the drinks. They're basically giving you a better version of Viagra, so to speak. Hopefully.
Well, they got rid of the
Hopefully.
cocaine and put Viagra into the coke.
Yeah, like can you imagine? Oh my god. Honestly, Coke needs to do that. There's already like chocolates that does it, so
there's probably a soda out there that does it.
yeah, there is. There's sodas that do it, but I mean like when you want Coke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, coke. Hmm. Although
Okay, that's it.
I'm more Dr Pepper.
Ugh. Everyone I speak to is Dr. Pepper, and I don't understand why.
This is a very big favorite in the South.
Oh, God. Well, I'm from the north, and everyone loves it up here too. So
Aphrodisiacs in Coke, and it says here that they are heavily diluted in the park itself because it's a family-friendly atmosphere. Or I should say within the hotel itself, in the park, they're not diluted at all. For those that don't know, an aphrodisiac is something that gets you in the mood. And if you were curious how effective of an aphrodisiac this stuff is, in the chart that shows us details of the amniotic thermal springs itself, we can see a spring potency chart. Now, essentially, remember this is a giant creature. The thermal springs are these glands that you can walk through the canals of and bathe inside of these giant hot tubs, essentially made out of enzymes, and all the different nodes of this gland act as different bathhouses. On the chart for the spring potency, you can see that there is a green line, and for the green line it says visitors are encouraged to consult a physician before entering baths below the green line, because it can have different effects on your well-being. And then the yellow line on the super potent baths, the most potent of which being the libido bath, it says visitors are encouraged to consult a religious, mystic, or sexual wellness counselor before entering baths below the yellow line, because the more potent this stuff is, the more in the mood you get. It says that outside of the main bath, which remember is very, very diluted, users have to be 18 years old to go into the main baths. Also, because you can't bring any clothing in there, you have to be naked, because of course you do. It even says on this chart, a secondary and infamous property of amniotic spring fluid are the psychoactive and aphrodisiacal effects it has on those who consume or topically apply it. Bathers describe a gentle euphoric sensation when soaking in higher potency springs, with the effects of concentrated exposure being well documented by several best-selling short films, many of which are available for purchase by request in the Upper Visitor Center gift shop. Beyond the physical sensations, visitors often claim that they develop deep emotional bonds with those they interact with while inside the thermal springs.
So strangers.
Go inside the nodes of this giant monster thing
so
underground.
Go there if you want to get laid, basically.
That's
what I'm hearing.
That or go there to get a partner, because it's like it says more past that.
Yeah, I guess, that would be an easier way to do it too. If you get bored, man.
This is the flesh pit.
Go to... That's crazy.
Go to the gland zone.
That's absolutely insane, honestly.
Also, looking at this chart, I just noticed a bottle of water is $13 down here.
Oof.
Oh my gosh, that is price gouging. That's the real horror of this whole thing. These horrible amusement park level gouging, my word. Anyway, also looking at this node chart, there is a small sort of squishy node that comes off to the side, and it says undeveloped ballast bulb. Visitors are encouraged to experience the traditional bathing process by crawling into the bulb orifice. No thank you. And then over to the side we can see pumps that work as a way of pumping this amniotic fluid to the surface. What's interesting is reading the final paragraph of this entire chart. It says amniotic spring fluid is safe to eat and drink and has enjoyed limited exposure as an additive to a variety of popular consumer foodstuffs, such as the seasonally available Coca-Cola Heartthrob, Feel Good McFlurry, and even a ballast-based cordial liquor. And if you'll remember what I talked about at the beginning, this is a since shut down national park, and it was shut down over a specific event that happened that we're going to talk about in a minute. Now, several may be curious as to what the actual layout of the park is. As far as
they put the hormones in liquor.
Yes.
Liquor already makes people
Act out.
like, yeah, act out. So you're just adding to the problem. You're adding to the problem with that. That's absolutely crazy.
I guess that's why they're probably going to call it the Heartthrob lick.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Point taken. I just wanted to make sure I heard that right, that's all.
I guess they could call it the goof juice.
That's a good one. Goof juice.
the hiking routes go, it says several of the different routes you can go on. For example, the Bowels of the Earth route, it says the basic tour through the Mystery Flesh Pit. It is a 7.85 mile self-guiding stroll through many large and famous features like the Thor's Ribcage, Septum Falls, God's Mistake, and Oyster's Shame. Then there's some more adventurous ones you can go on. There's some guided ones by a ranger that you have to go through where you pretty much have to crawl through these really tight like blood vessel things, which also in the description for one of those tours known as the Swallowed Whole Tour, it says, note, this tour is not recommended to those who suffer from claustrophobia or a fear of being eaten alive, also known as those with common sense. What's also interesting that you can find while looking through this is several of the
He has a point. You can't argue.
For example, this one that says, notice respiratory mucosal folds are unmarked. Exercise caution to avoid entrapment because you can walk into the cilia of one of these things and get absorbed. Now, if you were to be absorbed, what might happen to you? And I assure you now, the answer is not good. See, on the Identifying Wildlife pamphlet earlier, there was one specific creature called compound surface fauna. And the description says, on rare occasions, abyssal whatever that word is, and other park wildlife will venture outside of the pit and will pull surface animals such as deer, livestock, coyotes, and rabbits into the Mystery Flesh Pit. If not eaten by park fauna, these animals may undergo a fascinating phenomenon known as anatomical amalgamation. This process, which is not fully understood by park scientists, results in the creation of a compound organism, which is a hybrid of constituent surface animals. No two of these amalgamations are the same, though the resulting physiology often results in similar conditions such as partial fusing of major body elements and relocation of internal organs to locations on the exterior of the body. Because of the gruesome and seemingly haphazard nature of the combinations, many compound surface fauna do not live beyond a few hours or days from the time they are discovered. Should you encounter a shambling compound surface fauna, please do not feed it or otherwise engage in activity which could prolong its suffering. And then the most terrifying note in red at the bottom, in the extremely unlikely event that you encounter an amalgamation containing one or more human constituent organisms, contact a park ranger immediately via one of the emergency telephones installed along trail routes. And in horrific images like this and descriptions around it, we can see what happened to those people. It says, while HIPAA and similar regulations prevent me from finding out exactly how many people even suffered amalgamation, it's estimated that fewer than half a dozen ever survived the treatment process to recovery. Recovery, though, is a loaded word here. The treatment co-developed by Baylor Medical Center and Anodyne Corporation was highly dependent on the nature of the amalgamation and seems to have been most successful with combined masses containing only human tissue. The procedure for treatment involved removing the brain and as much of the spinal cord as possible from the amalgamation. When possible, extraction of other organs such as eyes, cochlear tissue, tongues, and larynx would later enable the recovered patient a sensory experience much closer to that which they had previously enjoyed, since medical technology is even still unable to replicate the organic sensory quality of human sensory tissues. However, the difficulty and cost of this additional procedure all but ensured that this rarely took place. Once extracted, the brain of the individual patient would be placed in a nutrient cell, and connected to a proprietary interface and life support system developed by Anodyne Company. A rudimentary, computer-based system could be used to communicate with the recovered patient after several months of therapy, and in some cases, individuals were reported able to use vocoders to synthesize speech. It is unknown how many, if any, of these individuals are still living today. So most likely, through the cilia in the wall that it said do not get stuck into, you get mushed together with a bunch of other stuff that also got stuck in the walls and become these blob creatures that they try to harvest some organs from to keep you kind of alive.
I would rather die.
I hate it
If
here.
that happened
But
to
those
me, I think I would rather die. First off, I would die. I would sign a thing that says, if this happens to me, let me die. Do not try to reconstruct me. Yeah, I
do
accept
not
my fate.
revive. Leave me to
Yeah.
die, please.
If it's something like that,
no,
I'm
kill.
good.
He's trying to kill me. Don't let me survive.
Yeah, just put a gun to my head and let me live my life that way, okay? There's no way.
Put the gun to the third head in the pile of 14 people.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Also, fun fact, again, I'm a nerd and I know things. I have celiacs, and the way celiacs works is that if you eat gluten, your cilia helps you absorb a lot of your nutrients, and because I don't have the enzyme that breaks down gluten, I basically, my cilia will see that I ate gluten and basically clump together and create what's called polyps, and then proceeding to give me a bellyache. Which, yeah, it's fun. But that's what I know about cilia.
That just sounds painful.
Yo, no, it's painful, like, yeah, it's painful. I get stomach aches, I'm bloated, and life sucks, so I stay away from gluten the best I can.
Although, isn't it like almost in literally everything except like certain foods?
Yeah, it's in a lot of things. I that's why I probably don't eat enough too. So, also fun fact.
I eat too much. That's why I walk.
Someone's got to be healthy between us two. And
If I ever get the time / money, I'm gonna go to a gym. I'm gonna get John Cena swole. Let's go.
and then we can put you as that meme.
hmm
Gotcha.
Can't see me.
Can't see me now.
Visitors that still decide to go in through this massive elevator into a central thing called the Lower Visitor Center, located in the essentially throat of this creature. And as you can see from this image, it is a huge multi-level shopping mall with vendors and gift shops and restaurants and everything else you could imagine. In the description for it, it says, "Your adventure into the wonder and magnificence of the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park begins as your enclosed gondola begins to descend down into the darkness, away from the blistering heat and light of the Permian Basin. Just when the 20-minute twisting and turning right down into the maw of this immense organism feels like it might never end, an illuminated structure comes into view beneath your feet. Step out of the elevator car and into the well-lit and comfortable lobby of the lower visitor center, your gateway to an unforgettable visit to one of the world's most unique natural wonders. So this thing is so far down there, it takes 20 minutes on an elevator to get to a 8-story shopping mall. And if you look back at the maps of this entire thing, that is still nothing compared to the full size of this creature. What is interesting is that in several of the supplemental materials, you can find audio like this that shows what noise is played whenever you make it to the visitor center.
Hello, welcome to the Lower Visitor Center. Here, you can start your incredible otherworldly adventures with our child-friendly tours. For the daring thrill seeker, sign up for private expedition orientation classes at the front desk. For other questions, feel free to ask any of our park rangers. Remember, adventure awaits in the underground.
Also inside of these restaurants in the lower visitor center, for a long time it was said that they served meat from the cave wall itself, which is gross. However, in one of the Q&As that the creator did, he said that this is not true. However, people have ate the meat and says it tastes too gamey to serve, but that the giant lobster things taste delicious. And I've also talked at length already about the amniotic springs, also known as the pleasure domes. But another superstructure that you come across, which is actually at the furthest traced or at least mapped out point in the pits, is the Intra-Park Wellness Resort. This is essentially a giant resort or ski lodge type thing that is built onto the walls of what is basically the stomach of this creature, overlooking something called the Greater Gastric Sea, which, remember, everything in the pits dark, so you can't see forever, but as far as the people can see, it is a endless sea of bile and stomach juices. And this resort has pretty much everything from beauty shops, convenience shops, a comedy depot, an arcade system, a techno bis, a dance club. It has a dance club because of course it does. This entire thing is a monument to man's arrogance. There's a petting zoo as well where you can pet the declawed lobster creatures. Anyway, and in all the details about the spa treatments and the thermal things you can go to, it talks about the controls
you have to try things at least
like
once.
a humidity control,
okay?
And also
and if I get to pet a parasitic lobster thing,
because
so
since
be it.
you are overlooking a sea of gastric juices in your hotel room, they keep popping up on the window, so you have these giant wipers to clean it off, which, again, disgusting. I should also mention, speaking of humidity, you're inside of a living thing, so anywhere that is not on the main trail where they have constant AC systems running is 98.6 degrees and 100% humidity, so miserable.
Gross.
Which is something a lot
Disgusting.
of the miners talked about having to deal with, the constant heat and pressure being inside of this thing, because you're essentially a foreign pathogen inside of a giant body. So it's absolutely unbearable if you're not in one of the park designated areas. And even then you could still get killed by the lobster creature, so just don't do it. One of the last details of the actual park layout that I want to mention, besides the fact that, if you're not thinking about already, everywhere through the park has to be held open with stents so that the muscles or systems don't close back around you, is the emergency telephones that are placed throughout several different points in the park. Like on this poster, you can see that there are these phones placed around that were done by AT&T, and in the description, it describes that 150 miles of cable were laid as a means of getting communications outside of this organism. Also, seasoned hikers and park field staff referred to these as lighthouses, as walking through the dark with your flashlight, you would see these random blue phones while walking along your path. Which, with all of these, I want you to imagine the flesh and the noises and just the fact you're walking through something's giant body system, and to just be walking through such an alien place and come across a blue telephone box is so cosmically terrifying.
I love it so much.
Another thing to mention is public reaction to the pit itself. And as we can see through several images, the town of Gumption, Texas, that the pit is located in, absolutely loved the tourism and capitalized on it. However, some were not so happy about it. For example, an advertisement that was hung on hotel doors within the pit is an ad for someone called Homer Litfer Butcher, who works as an attorney for people who were injured while in the flesh pit. And as we can see on an April 1981 issue of Sanctified, the magazine of the Southern Baptist Association, it says on the cover, Baptist Convention denounces exploration of mystery flesh pit, calls it a foul tunnel to Lucifer himself, buried by the Almighty, enjoyed by the damned. And then in a very interesting picture, we can see a image of Dante's Inferno comparing the pit itself to the mouth of hell, which is really cool, and I think I agree with the church on this one. There's also 3 Q&As, or at least 3 so far, that Trevor has done to explain people's questions about the entire world of Flesh Pit National Park. And one of the questions that he was asked is, how long could someone live in the flesh pit long term? To which he said, archaeological evidence of prehistoric human activity within the pit has led to conjecture among scientists that long-term habitation within the anatomy of the pit is possible, but unlikely. Without modern technology and tools, any humans living long-term within the entrails of the
Just grabbing something
superorganism
real quick. I'm
would
still
need
listening.
to adapt to
I
the
promise.
perpetual darkness,
headset.
subpar oxygen, constant high humidity heat, and continually changing fleshscape in order to survive. Fleshscape is a fantastic word, oh my gosh. Over hundreds of generations, when combined with poorly understood long-term effects of consuming amniotic ballast fluid, it is entirely possible that humans adapt to this lifestyle would be fundamentally different from modern humans. Or in other words, if people lived long-term down there, they would probably adapt into these amorphous creatures like the other things that are down there, which who's to say some of that stuff down there isn't people, but whatever. A couple things that I can't find exactly where it was mentioned because I've read through so many of these pamphlets and I can't remember where everything was, but while first exploring the pit, they came across armor from around the period of the Spanish Inquisition, which implies that people got there way earlier, or at the very least they were dragged underground by the things that were there. And one of the more interesting things said in one of these Q&As is someone asked the question, are there any Jumanos, Apache, or Comanche, the American Indian people native to the surrounding area, folktales or oral histories concerning the superorganism? To which Trevor answers, there is a fascinating legend from the near Caddo people by the name of Sacred Medicine Water, which I will reproduce here. The favor of the Great Spirit rested on the abundant forest, flowers, songbirds, and small animals of these quiet hills. Then a fierce dragon devastated the land, bringing disease and hunger and hatred and greed on the people. The Indian nations pleaded with the Great Spirit to subdue the dragon into a deep slumber, and the night of all the heavenly forces contrived to bury it under the world, where it shakes the earth even today. Once the Great Spirit had vanquished the dragon, he caused pure water to gush up through the earth from the beast and asked that his favorite place be held neutral ground so all can share in the healing waters. So here we see this dragon mentioned in Native American folklore is the thing that got knocked out and buried underground. Because if you remember, this thing was completely underground until the oil man Jim Jackson found it in 1973. And these healing waters that it mentions the people would drink that
I'm
came
back.
up
Hi,
from the ground
Skittles.
after the dragon
I
was
hope you
put
took
to
care of
sleep are quite
I
possibly
hope
the amniotic fluids
you
that we have
did
found
your
in the
aftercare
current
stream.
day have
After
healing
care-
properties.
after
So
Stream care
if this
stuff.
creature was knocked into a deep slumber,
I can speak.
then we better hope it never wakes up. Which it definitely did, and that would be the situation that led
Mystery
to the shutdown
Flesh
of the
Pit
park
National
in the
Park.
2007
He's explaining it to us.
Yep, we're watching the flesh pit.
I feel like I can never speak. Yeah, I can't speak. Simply.
Brain over processing.
Yeah. That's what happens. Okay.
Now we're going to the 2007 incident that he's talking about.
Oh.
Now, the incident is hinted at several times in different stories, or images, I should say, we come across, because everything that's shown, all the brochures, are relics of the now shut down park being put together by this creator online. That is, until we get to the official US Commission on Geobiological Resource and Public Safety, who did a final incident report on what happened to the park. In the executive summary, they say, at 9:41 p.m. Central Standard Time on July the 4th of 2007, the Permian Basin Superorganism Natural Preserve, known colloquially as Mystery Flesh Pit National Park, experienced a catastrophic disaster which resulted in over 750 fatalities and over 1,800 major injuries. In the weeks following the incident, approximately 18,000 individuals from the surrounding communities sought medical and psychological treatment for ailments including breathing problems, chest pains, shortness of breath, nausea, birth defects, hallucinations, depression, anxiety, internal bleeding, sore throat, and headaches as a direct result of contact with gastric ejecta which had been introduced to the atmosphere. Investigators have concluded that this disaster was chiefly characterized by a premature geobiological consumption event caused by the catastrophic failure of critical park infrastructure to constrain and limit the gastric, motor, and neurological actions of the Permian Basin superorganism. Investigators have concluded that the failure of these critical safety measures are the direct result of negligent practices by the primary site operating contractor, Anodyne Deep Earth Mining, a subsidiary of Anodyne Incorporated. So essentially, they are saying that 750 people died and a whole lot more were injured because of negligence on Anodyne's part, and then it goes by a step-by-step collection of what exactly happened on the night of July the 4th, 2007, and we are going to go through that report now. So, start of relevant timeline. At 10:29 a.m. on July the 4th, unreasonably high rains forced park administrators to cancel a July 4th concert and fireworks display scheduled to take place on the surface park grounds. Many visitors who had already purchased tickets to the event become upset, and a decision is made to extend the park hours until midnight for those who had purchased event tickets, and that was their first mistake. 8 p.m. normal closing time for the national park. A typical shift change of reduced night staff in the control room takes place. 9:16 p.m. Harvesting crews working in the western extremities of the organism set a new extraction record to meet a quota for bonuses in time for the holiday weekend. 9:30 p.m. Control room operators initiate a routine system self-test and discover a relay fault error resulting from increased electrical demand from mining equipment and tourist infrastructure. A control room operator logs the fault and notifies an on-duty engineer. Basically, because they were running over shift and because on another end of the park they were trying to mine really fast, the electronics became overwhelmed. 9:41 p.m. Water drainage from surface rain into the entry orifice begins to collect in the sand gullet. Drainage pumps are automatically activated by a sensor system but fail to initialize due to the relay fault. An emergency backup pump running on a separate emergency circuit is automatically activated. 9:42 p.m. A critical alarm in the control room alerts operators that the emergency water pump has seized and is inoperative. Under lubrication of the pump's impeller bushings resulted in corrosion due to the moist interior of the flesh pit environment. Because yeah, if you've got all this equipment inside something as humid as a living, breathing organism, stuff's gonna rust. 9:48 p.m. Technicians arrive at the primary pump station to discover the sand gullet almost completely submerged. Water begins to pour over the dorsal respiratory ridge and into bronchial bulbules. Control room operators divert power to hydraulic stent rams to brace for expected choke response. So essentially,
You good over there? What are you doing? You good? Oh god, we just watched we're watching. Oh no. We're watching Gamer Die live. You good? What just happened?
Uh, I inhaled something into my lungs called spit, and then I'm like, he has right as he said choke. I'm like, I guess I'm gonna choke, god damn it.
Toady says drink some water. Damn.
I got some coffee.
Ah, yes, because that helps.
It's just
He
my
choked on
I needed to cough, but I was trying to not to cough into the mic directly, and I'm like, okay, this is a horrible experience. It feels like I'm dying.
Poor gamer. Just trying to live.
Sorry for almost dying on camera.
No, that's fine. It would have been content. Are you, like, okay?
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you
fine. I
good?
was just taking a second. Reorienting my body.
Okay. As long as you're okay, we...
Normally, water goes down into a first little dip inside of the throat and pumps move it out, but because the pumps are not working because they're rusted, the water keeps pouring and it's now pouring into the lungs of this thing. Which again, this has never been a problem for hundreds if not thousands of years because it was all underground, but because we had to go doo-wop and then blow the lid off of it and then build an entire amusement park inside of this thing's mouth, it's causing problems. So all of those giant rods that are placed inside of it to keep the throat open all double down and brace, because if this thing coughs, it's going to be really bad. 951. Technicians A repair the relay stuff as control staff reset the park's electrical grid. The grid is offline for 45 seconds. The automatic PA system does not notify guests as the system is scheduled to automatically shut down at the normal 8 p.m. closing time. The temporary lapse of lighting causes many guests to become panicked and return to the main gantry lift at the lower visitor center. So the park's supposed to be shut down, and because it's supposed to be shut down, no one is told by the PA system that all the lights are going to go off. So once it's blackout, people panic and start running for the elevator. 9:52 p.m. A choking action from the organism begins 31 seconds into the electrical reset. The main dorsal trunk violently flexes. Lack of power to hydraulic arming rams causes irreparable damage to several sections of internal infrastructure. So when this thing had a little cough, it crushed everything in certain parts. We'll get to what happened to the parts with the people in it in a second.
Clickbait thumbnail, streamer
As the
almost
electrical
dies on
system
stream.
finishes the reboot cycle, the
That would've been
dynamic
perfect.
hydraulic actuators supporting the lower visitor center overcorrect for stability, not accounting for the shift in the wall lining of the nexial cavity in which the visitor center facility is anchored. 2 of the 6 structural supports are torn from their foundation, which causes the facility to list 20 degrees off vertical. The base joint of the vertical entry gantry is bent beyond its design limit angle. So the giant 8-story shopping mall gets broken a bit and does this, and now everyone's fallen over, and now you can't get out. 9:54. The master alarm is tripped automatically. Surface facilities are notified as response teams are given the orders to mobilize. 9:56. Park rangers are dispatched to rescue groups of visitors trapped in partially collapsed tunnels and trails. 10:03. Continued movement of the organism combined with rainwater causes one of the upper entry gantry supports to slip. An outbound elevator conducts an emergency stop, stranding over 24 visitors. 10:05, tremors registered as far away as the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So this thing starting to cough and move is causing massive earthquakes across the state of Texas. 10:06, soil liquefaction destabilizes surface facilities in and around the organism. Dilation anchors begin retracting to keep the entry orifice open, so now this thing is trying to shut its mouth. 10:12, the master failsafe is activated by the automated park management system. 20,000 liters of acinitin compound are injected into the superorganism via a distributed network of relay stations located through its known internal anatomy. So essentially now they're trying to drug this thing. 10:12, tremors and convulsions intensify as the entry gantry connection to the lower visitor center detaches completely. The lower visitor center begins to collapse downward into the nexial cavity. So that entire thing full of hundreds of people just starts falling deeper into the creature's stomach. 10:12, Peristaltic muscle action of the nexial cavity begins to exert substantial pressure on the outer structure of the lower visitor center facility. 10:15. The prime laboid junction just west of the septum falls geobiological feature flexes into an open position, releasing a torrent of lagogastric chyma into the dorsal trunk. It is likely that this was the reaction to the acetinin injection. So essentially, because they tried to drug this thing, it started to throw up. 10:16. Peristaltic spasms forced the caustic chyma slurry through the nexial cavity and up through the lower and upper moisture crops towards the surface orifice. Okay. 10:16. Many guests attempting to flee the stalled elevator near the entry orifice attempt climbing out of the upper moisture crop, but are ultimately unsuccessful due to torrential rains causing the surface to become very slippery. Many end up falling back into the maw. Now it's a sarlacc pit. People are literally trying to crawl out the sides and keep slipping back into the mouth. 10:17. The chyma slurry erupts from the surface orifice in a geyser several hundred meters in height. Large pieces of undigested organic matter crush several vehicles and damage windows. So at this point, it's thrown up, meaning anyone who was still inside of this super acidic acid when it got shot out they're out now, but they're also melting. 10:19. Following the several minute-long ejecta event, a deep and incredibly loud roar erupts from the entry orifice as ground tremors intensify further. Large extremities begin surfacing through bedrock and soil approximately 30 to 120 kilometers from the entry orifice. So now other parts of this thing are shooting above the ground up to around 100 miles away from the mouth. 10:25. The acid smell of the gastric ejection can be detected as far as Odessa, Texas. 10:26. 2 Park Service vehicles and a tour vehicle containing Park Service employees and several guests attempt to ascend through the entry orifice tube. Because remember, way down in there and past different from the stomach, there were still these truckloads full of people. 10:27. Peristaltic action crushes one of the tour vehicles and sucks the other 2 vehicles back into the nexial cavity and down into a digestive organ. These vehicles are presumed destroyed. So as they're trying to get out, it essentially swallows them because now all the inside structures are broken and it's starting to actually move its body. 10:58. The Pentagon is given authorization from the White House to use nuclear force if necessary to prevent the organism from entering an active and/or ambulatory state, which I'm not really sure that'd do anything, but okay. 11:02. The on-site operations director within the lower visitor center control room, so he's down there being crushed by the gullet, initiates a final failsafe measure in the form of the contingency measure. 11:02. Master event log records successful spin-up of the contingency measure. So we don't know, and we're not going to know specifically what this contingency measure is, but I have a theory I'll talk about near the end. 11:05. Lower visitor center structure integrity is critically compromised, resulting in total collapse, meaning everyone in that lower visitor center, including the operator who gave the contingency order, were killed by the crushing. 11:05. Data connection with lower visitor center is severed because it got crushed. 11:13. Spasms and motor action of the superorganism begin to noticeably subside. Response teams begin to descend into the surface orifice to attempt rescue operations. 11:19. Response team encounters visitor group which had attempted escape from stalled elevator. Most are dead, the remainder are mortally wounded and partially digested due to the caustic gastric ejecta. So it's just an elevator full of melting people. 11:42. Radio contact and also when I say I mean like a cool because this is awesome. Radio contact established with Ranger vehicle trapped
No, it's
within
not.
oyster shame due to ventricle closure. No feasible rescue strategy can be developed.
Ventricular,
before
I'm pretty sure,
complete
is your
mastication occurs.
heart vessels.
11:56. Response team confirms that
I might be wrong,
contingency
though.
measure and associate facility are still intact and operating. 1158, Texas Governor Rick Perry formally declares a state of emergency for Gumption County. 1222,
Yeah, it is.
response teams route data and
part
power
of your heart.
umbilical to new base camp in
Wait.
the contingency measure facility. 1235, three
Wait, what?
There. Ventricular is the heart, like you know how you have arteries there. Ventricular is one of the heart parts. What are they doing near the heart?
Oh, it's probably one of the trails.
My God, how has this thing not like done anything to these? Like, obviously it did something here, but I mean, compared to what it could do, I feel like
Because of the size of the thing, it is so large that humanity and what they have done is the size of bacteria in its perfume.
that's
Like
crazy.
like
I
it
don't.
probably legitimately does not notice their existence.
That's crazy. Also, it might not have like the smarts to be able to detect something. Like, he doesn't have thoughts, you know? It might just be a worm.
The
Like an intelligent life form, it might not be.
well, do remember he did say that it something that came out of the ground about 30 to 100 kilometers away from this thing as well.
Yeah, but that was from within it came out, right?
No, like from the ground somewhere else. Something else came out of the ground from this creature.
Oh, okay. Scary.
Don't worry, there's a picture of it.
Oh, God.
interpit life forms are identified as having been ejected onto the surface. 15 visitors are injured and 7 are hunted by interpit life forms during panicked evacuation of Surface Resort. So, some of the people who were just
Hunted.
on land and around are now being killed by the giant crab things that got shot onto the surface. 1241, park staff managed to kill the 3 large life forms. 102, National Guard helicopters begin delivering supplies and personnel to aid in site containment. 158, field hospital is constructed to care for wounded visitors and staff. 237, initial damage surveys report catastrophic destruction of internal park infrastructure. Pit geobiology has dramatically changed in hazard level. 3 a.m. Emergency teleconference of Anodyne Executive Leadership, National Parks Director, and Security of the Interior are present. 3:12, executive decision is made to initiate FEMA response and assemble a task force for containing superorganism. 4. Media helicopters and vehicles begin to report on scope of disaster. 4:39, base camp technicians begin to spin down contingency measure. Large fractures due to internal stretch have appeared on mineral components. Engineers advise against reinitializing contingency measure until mineral components can be replaced and repaired. 608. Ground personnel begin assembling a pump system to inject industrial sedatives into the superorganism. Transport trucks containing industrial sedative arrive. 9:45. Emergency teleconference of Anodyne shareholders. 11:20. Several injured visitors inexplicitly leave field hospital and begin walking towards open pit orifice. Approximately 38 individuals are able to crawl back into the orifice over the course of 8 hours. None are
What?
recovered. 3:51 p.m. Radio transmission from the trapped Ranger vehicle ceases. Many speculate that other small groups of visitors and staff are still trapped, and that's the end of the relevant timeline. So a few things to note here. Essentially, all of these people.
He might literally explain this. But so the incident was way too many things happened at once. Like, they just didn't plan around the normal night shift,
It was the perfect
like
storm
maintenance.
of stuff going wrong, which in a lot of cases where disasters like this it is the case. It is the one, they operated longer than they should have, the park. 2, the mining was also going on at the same time, extended wise, causing a straight on the
Yeah.
electrical system and then the pump's not working right, plus the electrical system being strained. They had to reset it, and then the chemicals they used to actually restore the thing were bad, and not the correct chemicals, which caused it to throw up. Just like the perfect storm of things to go wrong happened at the exact same
Yeah,
time.
can you imagine the amount of medicine they would have to calculate, like to have to sedate this thing? Like,
Yeah,
there's no way we would have the resources for that.
and the other thing is that, like, they literally just said they're bringing in truckloads of sedative.
Like, this poor creature just wanted to live, and you bitches discovered him and then proceeded to make him throw up.
And most likely, they're not even really fully medicating the creature. They're just medicating the zone that they're in.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's okay.
People died, and all of this occurred because the creature coughed and moved its arm a bit. To give you a scope of how huge
Wait, he
this
has
thing
arms?
is.
I didn't
So,
realize
if it's
that.
not clear, I'm pretty sure what's
I
going
thought it was a
on
worm.
is there's several supernatural things happening just below the surface. The number one being the contingency measure. See, if you look on the map of the above ground section, there is a side place that is a ritual site. And apparently it was a ritual for the natives who would perform these sort of ceremonies in honor of this great being, or in order to keep it down, one way or the other. And on this device pictured, in which we can see what the contingency measure device looks like, it operates off some sort of mineral that they said became compromised while they were performing it. And obviously, whatever the contingency measure was, it worked, because only 13 minutes later, the creature went back to sleep. I think that this rock that is placed inside of this device in order to make this thing go back to sleep is an ancient relic of whatever this great spirit is that put this dragon underground. So the contingency measure itself is essentially worshiping it the way that the natives used to, and that, or alternatively worshiping the spirit that fights the dragon and therefore forcing it to go back to sleep. And this dragon itself, or at least that's as it's described in the old legends, has a sort of hold on the people that were in it, which is why 38 people who barely escaped with their lives crawled back into the mouth of this thing. I also want to mention the terrifying fact that transmission didn't cease with the one car that was cut off by a closed up mouth, or essentially tubule of this thing. That probably still survived and either died of starvation or were eaten by the creatures down there or something, because they were on the radio for like 14 hours and then went out, and then it says they never got them out, which who knows how they went. And at the end of this entire thing, the report essentially says that it's Adonine's fault that any of this ever happened, and the company shut down shortly afterwards and went bankrupt because, you know, public opinion wasn't exactly great after this. And as far as that limb that raised above the ground, this is what that looked like. 100 miles away, this giant thing that shot miles and miles into the air is just maybe a shoulder or an arm or even a finger of whatever this creature is. I also want to mention, to further back up my theory about the contingency plan being a sort of religious or ceremonial kind of thing, in the Q&A, someone asked rumors of religious facilities built within the pit, and in the answer, Trevor says, "I don't have many details on it, but the contingency measure facility referenced in the 2007 disaster overview report was designated as an ecclesiastical religious observance facility in a 1998 GSA construction budget report. Make of that what you will." So absolutely, whatever this contingency report is, it's something spiritual, and whatever it is, it worked. Also on a chart that shows you signs of the Mystery Flesh National Park, and one of them that you can see in 1973, it says ecclesiastical personnel proceed to ritual site encampment. So even in 73, when they were putting this together, they realized there was some ritual practice that went into it. And then if you look at the modern signage that is up, it is a 10,000 volt electric fence that says, "Attention, extreme danger, stop, this area has been quarantined for your safety." Fact: over 582 people have died attempting to commune with the superorganism. Fact, the US government is unable to rescue individuals trapped by the superorganism. Fact, you will not receive a gift from the superorganism. And fact, you
There's
will find
ads
no
starting
answers
if you
beyond
wanted
this
to stop.
fence. There is nothing beyond.
We only have 8 more minutes. That's insane.
So how do you like the Flesh Pit so far?
Honestly, I love how the creator of all this, did it. Like, promoted it. It's really cool, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
There was something similar another video game did, but that was just like it was a small website they did to basically promote their game, but it was really cool. Releasing like the small bits of information this way is honestly really cool, and I wish more people and more companies would do it this way for different.
So imagine that there's a non-zero chance that the Mystic Flesh Pit at some point becomes a movie.
That's kind of cool. Honestly, worth it.
And it'll probably just revolve around the 2007 incident.
That makes sense, yeah. I mean, it's either that or, a life of a minor.
I am surprised that Iodine closed down because you'd think they would just go in there at the bare minimum to reestablish mining operations.
That's true.
Even if they don't close like even if they just never open up for tourists. But there's like the heartthrob, all those other things, the flesh meat itself, because they were directly mining it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming
That
they were
actually-
selling it to somebody.
Yeah, for something.
Well, because it'd be cheap food. Because even though
Yeah.
no one really wants it, it's for sale.
Yeah.
Kind of like some
That thing
grains
could
that no one
feed
likes to eat.
thousands. That's crazy.
It'd literally be the tofu meat.
Mm.
It would be the
Tofu?
meat. It would be the meat that is not sourced from any animal. No animal suffering was caused to get this meat. It is the
Well-
vegan meat.
I don't know if that's true.
Because they were cutting and slashing, and the thing that just never felt their presence. Even though
Just doesn't
they
care.
mine it. Yeah.
Hey, man. Some people are strong bitches. I don't know what to say.
Alrighty, do you want to continue?
The ads aren't done.
I thought they were.
You got... No. They just started.
Why do I see the message that they're done?
Oh. Well, because I'm dumb. Sorry. They are.
It's just,
They're done.
Okay.
No, just complete. I don't know. I'm stupid, I guess.
We're all a little bit slow sometimes.
Just a little special, that's all.
On this fence worth dying for. So that whole idea that they have to put up signs saying there's no answers past this and you won't find out anything more goes to say that there has to be at least some people around the area who think the pit holds these special or spiritual properties. And now the pit essentially works as a derelict, left behind establishment of what it once was, with large companies existing that are owned by the government, and there's absolutely no current day records of what they're doing, but it's something they call the reclamation. So what some may think is essentially getting back their resources is probably actually another corporate way of trying to get resources out of the pit, which I'm sure won't go wrong ever. But the 2007 event and the fact that all of it got shut down over it is the reason the entire presentation of everything that you read on the website is of a now defunct park, because it has been shut down and has just been used as a sort of scavenging project since. And the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park is now a monument to man's arrogance and exists as a sort of forgotten memory, only mainly remembered by the many dead that are a symptom of man trying to enter themselves into something that they don't fully understand. And as a quick little tangent off of that, would this not make the best survival horror video game ever? Like,
See,
I mean,
he's thinking.
every single second of the setting is fantastic. You have all of the possible vehicles
knows what
that
I'm
the player
saying.
could use mapped out, and in stuff that I didn't really get into, describe how it works. You have an evil company that is trying to gather resources from it, even though it's supposed to be defunct. You have a very long list of different enemy types, some of them these giant bugs, and some of them these amorphous blogs that can attack you. You have all the different weapons laid out for you. It talks about people use guns, but that the giant laser bolt shooter guns are the best. And like, there's so much you could do with it. You even have save points. You have these blue lit phones known as lighthouses throughout the entire map, and you got a map that's mapped out for you that you could use as save points. And then you have all the suits, and you have the different character models, and like, you even have a plot. You have the plot of the event that happened, and now they're sending in agents on top secret missions to reclaim stuff, and you have this whole underlying thing of like spiritual ritual. And oh my gosh, this would be so cool. It blows my mind that, to the best of my knowledge, this is the first YouTube video ever talking about this thing, because this is one of the coolest Lovecraftian, super absurd cosmic horror pieces I've ever heard of, and it needs more attention. And if this thing, like, if he doesn't make like a book, I think he has a book in the works, but like, if he needs like a narrative, let me at this. I want to write something for this, or like get it to a video game developer. I don't know. This is so cool. I want to see more done with it. Trevor really has something special on his hands, and like, not just from everything that I talked about, but I say this a lot in videos, but I really mean it. Please go to the original website, not only to support him through either his Patreon, or he even has a really cool merch shop that's like Mystery Flesh Pit National Park, like hats and hoodies and t-shirts. But like, I barely touched the surface. There's information about Anodyne. There's information about how details of it work. There's this long science article that talks about how the infrastructure works and how the pipelines work and the architecture that went into the pit. And like, he's done so much, and there's so much fantastic content here. And if this interests you even a little bit, and even if you don't read, I don't care. It's so good. Please check this out. It's worth your time. If you can't tell at this point, I'm a big fan. And I didn't even read all the letters. I didn't read all the propaganda that they did as a means of explaining what the park is, or through the Cooper Cave guy who like talks about how creepy the pit is, but why kids don't need to be afraid. I didn't read all the letters. I didn't even read the newspaper article that explains who Jim Jackson is. What I did is hit the highlights so you could have a basic narrative understanding that I did not have going into this, which I personally found as being fun not knowing going into this, because then I had to put it together myself. But now you can check it out for yourself, get a better understanding of the artwork, the lore, and all the supplemental materials that go into this, because this thing is still going on, and Trevor is still adding new bits to the lore and making new artwork, and this is an incredibly talented and fantastic work. And once again, I'm telling you that if you like this even a little bit, check it out. It's worth your time. But regardless of all that, I guess if you stuck around this long, I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but if you stuck around to this long, I guess you enjoyed it. So as always, thank you for watching.
We'll let him
I'm
give
glad
him
that
his
you
spiel
enjoyed.
because he
This
basically
is so fun to me. This has got to be like one of my favorite kinds of videos to make. Just
Definitely
finding this
deserves it.
totally absurd, out there concept, and then being able to do it. And it blows my mind that there's no videos on this. Like, as crazy and as in-depth as this world is, as far as I know, I'm the first guy to talk about it on YouTube, which I am honored for one, but like, this thing needs more attention. So hopefully I can bring attention towards it, because like, man, this is one of those like rare finds that you come across all this stuff. And like, I'm scrolling through it right now. looking at all this insane artwork and time that went into this, and it's really something special. And like, I'm sure a lot of you probably clicked on this video, besides my subs who click on everything I do. I love you all to death. But like, there's people who clicked on this video just because the title's so eye-catching. And yeah, it is. The Flesh Pit National Park. It's just so cool, and it's so fantastic. I'm really excited because I feel like I'm on the ground floor of something, and I hope it is the ground floor. I hope that he's able to just take this and keep rolling with it, because this is really good stuff, and I love it. And I feel kind of honored, honestly, to be the one to talk about it. But it's really cool. So thank you all so much for watching. This was actually sent to me originally by a Twitter user, Aiden. I forget his exact @ on Twitter. I'll like tweet his @ whenever it comes out, but he DM'd me this saying I need to check it out. He was 100% right. So I do check my DMs for like video requests and stuff like that, so if you've got one, please send it. I can't promise to look at all of them, but I can promise to try. So thank you, Aiden, for sending me this, and thank you to everyone for watching this. This has been fantastic. We are now around 430,000 subs, which is over the moon insane. And I really can't believe it. But thank you all so much for that, and thank you all for
If there's a
getting me where I'm
book
at.
that comes out for this, I will
It's just hard to take in.
110%
And,
want to
the
read
fact
it.
that there's some people watching me just ramble right now is so cool to me. But thank you all so much for that. Thank you so much to all of my viewers and subscribers.
I am
thank you
a
my
book
patrons,
kind
my
of girl,
top-tier
and I
patrons
love
that
my
you get to
books.
hear. You guys are the best, and you keep me going, and it means the most. So I'm going to go ahead and stop rambling. That should be the end of it. I don't think there's any more announcements. There will be more iceberg videos on the way, and that should do it. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Well, it did. This
Hold on.
video was released 3 years ago.
Oh. It was? Okay. I was gonna ask you when it was actually released.
So there's a very high possibility that there is now a book, because he said there was one in the works apparently.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me look it up. We'll do some research right now.
General guide of what happened in the Nutty, because we talked about it for a second. I don't specifically know what happened, but essentially the cave, because of how soft and porous it is, trapped somebody and they drowned.
Oh.
And because
Don't go
of,
cave diving.
and because of how the structure of the cave was, they got disoriented and essentially drowned themselves.
Oh.
Because they didn't know which way was up to down.
Well, I don't know how to spell, so that makes, I guess, kind of sense.
Because they're also panicked or something, couldn't figure out which way was
Yeah.
up.
There is a game. I want your book. Give me book. Ow.
Well, there's also apparently a website.
Yes. I thought that's where he's been uploading stuff. There's also there. I said a game. RPG. Oh. I think there's a book. Oh my god, there totally is, because there's buy on Amazon.
Yippee!
I wish it told me how many pages. Oh. Okay, go back. It's on Goodreads, so it has to be right, correct? Has to be real if it's on Goodreads. Oh, he's written 13 books?
Reads the Mystery Flesh Pit live on stream.
The problem is, I have a very hard time, like, reading things out loud, if that makes sense.
Gets an AI to read it live on stream as you listen to it.
There probably is whatchamacallit? What do you call it? An audiobook on it. Maybe if there's a PDF file, I will look at it that way. But that was honestly, that's not what I was expecting you to make me watch.
That was an experience, right?
Yeah, no, I loved it actually. I was full. The questions you asked me the other day, I full blown thought you were gonna make me watch,
A ghost story
like
or
ghost,
something.
yeah, like ghost videos and whatnot, which I'm fine with. I
Well,
like ghost videos and stories,
Uh,
but
I do have that technically in the lists. I don't have
okay.
them
Well,
specifically compiled yet.
sadly, we're gonna have to end it here because
No.
yeah, I have work tomorrow and I still have to shower and feed my dogs. So that's what I'm gonna be doing after stream, sadly.
Sadness.
I also have to feed myself, but that's not. My dogs come first, honestly.
Big
So
sadness.
yes, a little sad. We'll have to pick another day to do this, along with Pale World.
Exactly.
But I loved it actually, and I'm sure the book's gonna be amazing. And I'm sure my dad will want to read the book too, because he's into weird stuff like that. So I don't know if my sister will be able to. I don't know if she really likes. She likes horror and whatnot, but I don't know if she likes.
This
If
is a
she's gonna like.
weird sort of horror. This is like body horror.
Yeah, yeah, like halfly sci-fi, if you will.
Gets to the part about getting crushed into multiple people into one
Ugh,
like massive person.
that's disgusting, honestly. I would cry.
Thank you for stopping by and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a subscription, leave a comment, a like. Maybe head over to my Twitch and Kick and follow me there and say hi. I hope you have a great, wonderful rest of your day.
The night is young, but it feels so old. A story written, yet never told. The mask is heavy, the air is thin. The game begins, but no one wins. Oh, it shines like gold, it feels like fire. A fleeting